started trading making less than $100 per trade. I didn't have direction in the beginning of what to do, which wasted years. Fast forward to now, I make thousands per trade. And other traders have also had success with this strategy. It's not just me. This student of mine learned this strategy and made 93% return in just 1 year. So this doesn't just work for me, it works for others, and it can also work for you as well. If you can learn this strategy, you can start with a small account and grow it up into a large one over time. So let's go over the 4-step process that you need to start an account with $1,000 and grow it into an account like mine or my students, where you're potentially making thousands per trade. Now, the first thing to get started is, what asset are you going to trade? There has been a massive shift in people moving towards futures trading over the last couple of years, because they started to realize that futures are amazing for starting a small account, ability to day trade as much as you want with a small account, and then as well, the amount of leverage you're getting with futures. Trading the S&P 500 futures right now, you can get 450 to 500 times leverage on your money. And so this allows you to start with a really small account, but potentially grow it very, very rapidly if you're finding consistent success trading. And so if you want a really in-depth tutorial on futures, I'll link a video to it up here. But basic terms is, futures really just give you access to being able to trade high leverage with a small account, and it's very, very simple. It's just exactly like buying and selling shares and stocks. You just buy high and sell low. It is not complicated compared to something like options. Now, step 2 to this process is take the strategy that I'm about to teach you and start on a demo account. Just do that for a couple weeks at least. There's going to be a lot thrown at you initially, and mistakes in trading lose you money. I know you want to jump in and make money right away, but to become successful at trading, just like these other students, you need to focus on the process. And this leads right into step 3 of how you're going to go about, once you switch to real money, growing that account. I wouldn't risk more than 5% of your account per trade when you first start out. The whole idea of this is it helps prevent you from blowing up your account, because if you go on a lose streak and you're risking more, you could wipe yourself out of the game before you've even started. And when you first start out trading, you need to spend a ton of time just getting experience and learning how the strategy works over time. And the real money in trading comes from the exponential curve that is your trading profits. The first couple of years when your account is small, you're not going to be making that much money, because trading gains are based off of a percentage. If you make 20% return on a $1,000 account, you're making $200 in 1 year. And that seems like a complete waste of time. And the whole idea is, well, when you size up and grow the account to larger, let's say 300,000, you're making that same 20% return. Well, that's now $60,000 a year. And that's where the income really comes from trading, is in the future down the road, when your account becomes larger and larger over time. A few years ago, when I started my account doing this, I made 100% return in 1 year. And again, it was only on a $5,000 account, so it seemed kind of small, but again, that's insanely good return if you can then keep scaling up and replicate that on larger accounts. And I have students that have also had a ton of success doing this. And I think that's what's really important, is because other people have found success with this, not just me, it means that you can find success with it too. So this student right here reached out and told me that they had made 50% return on their account in the last year trading. So now let's move on to step 4 and show you the actual strategy that I use and these other students that are finding success trading use. This is a recording of a trade I took years ago on a smaller account, risking about $40 in this trade. And so this is showing you exactly how you can start with $1,000 or under, enter in these trades, and start growing your account. And so the first thing that I do in my strategy is, I have really realized over time that just focusing on looking for key areas of essentially support or resistance in the market, where the market could potentially bounce off of, and then essentially just betting that it's going to go up from one of those support levels and making money based on that. And so how I draw those levels is I just look at a larger time frame chart. This is a 15-minute chart of the ES futures, and you can technically use this kind of strategy and analysis on any market or time frame. I do have students that use it on Forex, options, crypto, but I have found it to be really good and useful on futures. But the main idea is looking at the big picture is, okay, where has the market essentially been bouncing? And where is it making a support zone? And then based on the larger swings as well, okay, there's two really big highs up here. That's gonna be a resistance zone. And then I do those every day as I come into the market and look for trades. And then I just see, okay, well, I wanna wait for the market to come down to this level. I'll look for a bounce, or I wanna see the market come up to here and look for a short. And so with this strategy, you can bet the market's gonna go down and make money, or bet that it's gonna go up and make money. And so right here, you can see there is a kind of a blue box support level, and I'm looking to take a long off of that. And so I have a 5-step checklist that I use for every time I get into a trade. It kind of really simplifies things and helps narrow your focus. And again, helps you have that direction of your strategy. And that's really what's important when you first start out. And the first thing in that is, okay, step one, we're at a support level. The market's come down to that. And step two is, okay, well, what does the trend look like into that level? You don't want to just be blindly trying to bet the market's going to reverse anytime you're looking at it. You got to be able to have good steps for it. And so the first thing is, okay, is that downtrend clearly broken? It's clearly broken that, okay, the market was in a nice downtrend here, and then all of a sudden it started to go sideways. And so that's step two right there, confirmed. Now, the third thing is waiting for kind of the market to make a retest or a double bottom. Essentially show me that it's almost attempted to keep going lower, and that attempt has failed. And why this works so well as a really good confirmation, there's a big trend here, and a lot of people, they miss that move and they think that the market's going to keep going lower. And so you can see all these red bars here. This is the market attempting to push lower and lower. And once that kind of attempt fails, well, I think it shows a lot of strength to the upside. And, taking into account that we're at a major level where the market's likely to reverse, then it really, really helps accelerate the chances of it reversing. That's why I look to find these support levels off of a 15-minute chart, but then I go into a 1-minute chart and get a more accurate entry, because the candles show up a lot more faster in a 1-minute chart, allowing you to get a more accurate entry and a closer entry to the support level. Now, the fourth thing is, which is really, really important, is making sure there is kind of a risk reward potential for this trade. So right here, I entered in the trade right here at this line. That's what this line means. That's where I entered. And this is where my stop loss is. So I put my stop loss below this swing that it made, and I got in kind of right at the break of these two candlesticks. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the whole idea is, okay, if I'm gonna risk $40 here, I wanna be able to make 2 or 3 times that. And so this allows you to have that positive risk reward ratio. And so that's what this profit limit up here is. It's at 3 times my risk. And if the market shoots all the way up there and gets that, I'm gonna get out of the trade with a really nice profit. Again, if I'm risking $40 on a $1,000 account, that's 4%. And if I make 3 times that, I get 12% return on that one trade. And so you don't need that many of these to make a really, really good return. Now, of course, you got to calculate losses in there too. That's why you're not just making an insane 1,000% return in 1 year off of just a couple trades. And so the last thing is kind of seeing a really good candlestick pattern confirmation. I have a free 14-page guide that goes way more in detail into this. You can find this in the description. The basics for this entry here is it's essentially a 3-line strike pattern. And all that is a pattern that looks like this. And so it looks a little different. Of course, this is kind of what classic looks like. But in terms of this strategy and trade right here, it's kind of the same thing. You have a bunch of red bars right here, red bar, another red bar, and then it starts to slow and show some kind of indecision in this area. And the whole idea is we just want to see the momentum start to switch and slow. And then all of a sudden, you have a massive switch in that momentum and you get a really strong bullish bar, taking out a ton of the previous candlestick's highs, and then couple that with it essentially making a double bottom here. It makes an exact double bottom. And so that doesn't happen every time. That doesn't have to happen, but that helps in terms of this trade. And then basically from there, I like to get in at that area once I see kind of this candlestick finish forming. You always want to wait for it to form and then go from there. And so from there, entered in, put my stop loss below this low, because the whole idea is, well, if the market comes up here and then reverses, I want to get out of the trade. You have to not get married to each trade. Just get out when it doesn't work and move on. That's where kind of the math plays into the game. Is you're going to lose some trades. That's totally a part of trading, and you don't want to try and make your losses more and more. If you try and move this stop loss farther away to try and give the trade more time to work, that's how you really start to get into a negative risk reward ratio, and you can just blow your account or become really, really inconsistent with your profitability. And that's definitely not what we want. And so going forwards, when you first start out, I would highly suggest is just have your profit target at a fixed 2x. I think that's the best. I started with a little bit more of a strategy of, if we kind of zoom forwards in this, I moved my stop loss here to break even because I wanted to take my risk off the table. If the trade started to go up in my favor here and then just started to reverse, and I'd prefer to get out and not a loss on that trade. It's still giving it plenty of wiggle room to play out. And then you can see here, it started to really accelerate in my favor. I was keeping my fixed target here at 3x. If it just shot up here and hit that, great. And then from there, just again, zoom forwards, I also started to move my stop loss up more and more. And so that's really a lot more complicated, and I don't want to get into that too much. I have videos that explain on this more. And so watch another one of my videos and you'll see more of that. But here I basically was just trailing up my stop loss to see, okay, give the market some wiggle room to see if it goes up here and hits my target, or if it comes down and hits out here and I get out, I've still got a nice win under my belt. And so you can't kind of just get married and hope that a trade does something. You have to just kind of see what it does and move on. And so there, it's basically gonna, I think, knock me out here at about, I think $60, $65 here. And so that's, you know, that's a really good profit. That is on $1,000 account. That's a 6% return on one trade. And so it knocks me out at what looks like $60. And again, that's a great trade. Rinse and repeat that, and you'll slowly start to grow your account. Now, fast forward here to years later, I'm trading the exact same strategy with just larger size. That's the biggest thing, I think, that made me profitable, and I think has made other people profitable using this strategy, is you just focus and master one thing. Trying to have a ton of different strategies that make money doesn't actually work. You kind of become a jack of all trades, master of none, and instead just get insanely good at one thing and scale up, because you can look at the money difference already. This market here, I'm still trading the S&P 500 futures on this trade, and you can see the money is way different. Just little movements here is $25 each. And so the amount of money potential, if this thing makes a similar move like the last trade, is thousands. And so this is where trading is really powerful. And you can see, just to go through kind of the 5-step checklist I use again, is it's at a support level. I've drawn a trend line to see, okay, where's that downtrend? I'd want to wait till it's broken. I think the downtrend is pretty clearly broken here, essentially. And then it started to go sideways. So you always want to kind of see that downwards momentum start to lose. And then the idea is, with the strategy, you jump in on a trade and capture that move up if it happens. And if it does, you make a lot of money. And if it doesn't, you lose a smaller amount. And then so with this trade specifically, I kind of saw the market do a little double bottom here. And then a big thing that I like to look for is what I call a failed breakout. I kind of have a trading catalyst for me. And I see it as, if you look at these two red bars right here, is the market's essentially made a fake lower, or it's attempted to keep pushing this trend lower. It's made a new low. It's essentially broken this double bottom right here by making a lower low. And so breakout traders and people wanting to continue betting that the trend's gonna go down, jump in on that thinking that's a good confirmation. And instead, you can see this big bullish candle reverses on these people and it traps them essentially. And so essentially they get in down on their trade really quickly. They start to panic. You know, even just looking at this, when this is in the red, it doesn't feel good that you're down money. And so anytime it starts to get kind of big and near your stop loss, you're gonna wanna jump out. And so I don't know if you noticed, I actually doubled my trade size. And so now every move is even larger. And that's just because over time I've got more complicated with the management. This is something you can do down the road. You can see I don't have a fixed profit target up here anymore. All I do is I scale in on a trade and then scale out based on my stop losses. And so again, that's something you can start to do later down the road once you start to find more success with your trading. And so once the market kind of did this bounce here, I really like that as a signal, and it started to break out here. It came back down to a level I liked, and so that's why I kind of bought more. I doubled down. Again, I wouldn't suggest doing this right away. And then from there, just to kind of let it play out, the market kind of moved up really nicely, and I, just like I was doing before, went to break even, kind of took that risk off the table. But again, you're still giving wiggle room to the market to play out. And so that's what I did. And I kind of let the market kind of do its thing. And I slowly moved up with the swings as the market broke higher and higher. Now, this trade, I think, only gets me about 1 times my risk just because of how it played out. And that's pretty small in terms of risk reward. But with the size I was at, I'm still basically getting about $1,000 on this one trade. And a lot of the times I get 3 or 4 times my risk, which would make a trade $3,000 or $5,000. And so that's kind of, again, showing you where the power of trading comes into play. Is you don't have to be getting crazy moves or massive swings. This kind of swing happens every day in the market. And so I'm going to get knocked out of this trade at this level here. And so I barely caught much of this swing here. I only caught kind of the middle of this swing, but it's still, I'm making $1,000 on the trade. And so that's where the money from trading comes, is that growth over time and that size increase over time. So if you want a video that is a full 2-hour breakdown that will accelerate your trading to the next level, check out this video right here. I go into every detail about futures basics and expectations and this strategy so you can start executing it yourself.